Chicago drill goes deeper than just the music. It's a genre that's mixed with the local gang culture, and artists often use the art to diss rivals and talk about what's going on in the streets. Here's a look at a few Chicago drill lyrics that reference real-life events that actually happened. Goof got shot right up in his top, his brother told on me. In this bar, King Von is referencing his op FBG Wooski and his brother Big Mike. King Von was a member of O Block, a set of the Black Disciples. Wooski is a member of STL EBT, a set of the Gangster Disciples who had beef with O Block. Despite being the GD, Wooski grew up in O Block, which is known to be a headquarters for the BDs. There was always tension between Wooski and those that rep O Block like Von, but things really heated up in 2011 after Wooski allegedly shot Von's friend Platoon, and Von responded by allegedly killing Wooski's cousin. After that, Wooski and Von started beefing on Twitter, and the war between the two was made public. The beef stayed on the internet for a while, until a shooting that occurred outside a house party on May 29, 2014 that left one person dead and several others injured. The victim's name was Malcolm Stuckey, and the alleged shooters were King Von and a man named Big Mike, a fellow BD who also happened to be the blood brother of FBG Wooski. Despite being a BD, Big Mike agreed to testify against Von to receive a reduced sentence, but backed out the last minute and refused to take the stand. Even though Von was the alleged shooter, no other witnesses came forward and there was no DNA evidence, so Von was released and Big Mike was sentenced to 28 years for the murder. Check out our videos on rappers who beat a murder case for more info on this case. The fact that Mike was Wooski's brother only intensified the beef. However, Von was fighting the case until 2017, and therefore nothing happened in the streets. But the beef popped off again in 2018 after an O Block member named HK was gunned down right outside the entrance of the Parkway Gardens houses. Wooski was allegedly one of the shooters. Wooski then added fuel to the fire by dropping a diss track called Computers, where he disses several members of O Block and takes credit for HK's killing. HK was King Von's best friend's brother, and so he took the killing and blatant diss personally. Then, in October 2018, Drewski the Man, a rapper and affiliate of MOB, a set of the GDs, was shot and killed in the Washington Park neighborhood on the south side of Chicago. Wooski and his crew were in attendance at the funeral, which is when Von and the rest of O Block got their revenge. While he was outside smoking a cigarette, Wooski was shot in the head by two gunmen in a drive-by that wounded 5 other people. But Wooski miraculously survived the shooting, and the beef continued right up until Von died in 2020. So in the Exposing Me remix, Von is referencing Wooski getting shot in the head outside the funeral, and Big Mike almost taking a stand against him in court. King Von blew up not long after Wooski was shot, and he continued throwing jabs at his opponent right up until the end. But Von isn't the only artist to describe the crazy violence going on in Chicago. This next artist raps about the killing of Tuka and Lil Mark, two half-brothers from Chicago who were both shot at a bus station in 2 separate incidents years apart. Let's check it out. Lil Mark and Shondell, they got killed in the same way. S. Dot and Tay 600 are 2 rappers affiliated with the 600 sets of the Black Disciples. In this lyric, Tay 600 is rapping about the killing of 2 half-brothers, Tuka and Lil Mark, who were both gunned down at a bus stop in Chicago 2 years apart. Shondell Gregory, aka Tuka, was a 15-year-old member of the STL set of the GDs who was gunned down on the night of January 12, 2011 while waiting for a bus on the 600 block of East 63rd Street in Chicago. The killing was believed to be retaliation for the killing of 17-year-old Edric Ty Walker, a member of the BDs who was killed back in 2009. The GDs responded to Tuka's death by killing another member of the BDs, 20-year-old O.D. Perry. After this deadly beef, GDs in St. Lawrence started going by the name Tukaville in honor of Tuka, and the BDs in the Parkway Gardens houses started to call themselves O Block in honor of O.D. Perry. As many members of the O Block BDs gained prominence in the music industry, from Chief Keef to Lil Durk to King Von, Tuka became one of the most disrespected people in the history of hip-hop. Chief Keef brought the term smoking on the Tuka pack into popular culture, and 9 years after Tuka was murdered, King Von was still dissing him in the unreleased track How I Rock, Tuka Pack. If that wasn't enough, a few years later, Tuka's half-brother, Lil Mark, was killed the same way, waiting for a bus in the mean streets of Chicago. Lil Mark was a rapper and a member of the 051 Young Money Gang, a set of the Mickey Cobras and the Black P Stones, another set who had beef with the BDs. On March 25, 2014, Lil Mark released a remix of Lil Durk's song called No Competition, where he dissed several members of the BDs by name, specifically members of the OTF, 600, and Lamron sets. Just 3 days later, on March 28th, Lil Mark was waiting for a bus and was killed by OPPS. No one was ever arrested for Lil Mark's killing, but it's been suggested that the killers were from the 4-7 terror set of the BD's Mickey Cobras. Not long before the shooting, Lil Mark was recorded on FaceTime with Lil Reese. Throughout the video, Reese had a big grin on his face, but things are clearly tense. Reese is a member of the BDs and is one of the artists Mark dissed on No Competition. These 2 killings contributed to a lot of the violence that fueled the early drill movement. Tuka and Lil Mark remain some of the most dissed artists in hip-hop simply because many BDs ended up becoming superstars and no GD or Mickey Cobra artists have managed to blow up on a mainstream level. But the feud with the 051 gangs and the BDs didn't stop at Lil Mark. This next song references the killing of OTF Nooski, Lil Durk's cousin, and a member of the BDs who was shot in a parking lot in broad daylight, allegedly by a member of 051 Money Gang. Let's check it out. They found Nooski stuffed up in that car, just like they did Pac. FYBJ Mane is a rapper affiliated with the Jarrell City set of the BDs and GDs. Members of Jarrell City are made up of Dark Side Black disciples and Outlaw Gangsta disciples. So FYBJ Mane claims BD, however he also claims BDK, meaning he had ops who are BD. Plus, he's also cool with well-known GDs and has made music with artists like FBG Duck and Wooski. In his track Exposing Me, he raps about the killing of OTF Nunu, or Nooski, who was shot to death in broad daylight in 2014. Nooski was also an up-and-coming rapper who had gained some buzz in the city for his track OC, which featured his cousin Lil Durk. OTF, or Only the Family, is a brand and record label started by Lil Durk. It also stands for Only Trey Folks, which is the set of the black disciples that Durk and Nooski were part of. On May 31st, 2014, Nooski was ambushed and shot dead while sitting in an SUV in the 700th block of East 87th Street in the Chatham neighborhood of Chicago. Durk and some of his friends were inside a nearby store when Nooski was shot. Many have speculated that the hit was intended for Lil Durk, but Nooski was the one they called LACKIN, so they killed him to send a message. Although no one was ever arrested for Nooski killing, drill fans have speculated that it was a retaliation for the killing of Lil Mark, and the killer was a member of 051 Money Gang named 051 Melly. Melly was considered one of the top hitters in Chicago and has been credited with multiple high-profile killings. In addition to OTF Nunu, he's also allegedly the killer of Durk's manager, OCF Chino, who was also killed while sitting in the car in the Avalon Park area of Chicago less than a year later on March 27, 2015. Fans have noted that Durk released a remix to Chief Keef's Finito, where he raps, "Bitch, I'm riding through the ops, finna go and shoot Young Money up." Allegedly, Melly didn't appreciate this diss and killed Durk's manager to prove he wasn't playing around. It's unclear whether OTF ever got revenge for the killings of Nooski and Chino. At the time, Lil Durk's music career was taking off, and 051 Melly was still heavily involved in the streets, so it's likely Lil Durk distanced himself to stay away from all the drama. However, the beef eventually came full circle, and 051 Melly was killed at a party in Jarrell City on Memorial Day weekend in 2019. The shooting was caught on camera, and Melly, along with another woman, were shot. The woman was wounded but survived, and Melly was not as lucky.
Man, they just killed y'all.
Because Melly was rumored to have so many bodies, it was tough for fans to figure out who was behind his killing. There was no retaliation shooting directly after the incident, which led many to speculate that he was set up by Jarrell City. Although Melly wasn't part of Jarrell City, he was cool with several members. In the video, the shooter is the only one letting off any shots, which at a normal house party would be understandable. But in Chicago with a house full of known gangsters, the fact that someone started firing and there was no immediate retaliation led many to believe that it must have been a setup. Police arrested a person of interest in the shooting, a dude named 007 Nate, who was a member of the Taekwon World set of the GDs. Nate was named as a person of interest, but never charged. It's unclear what the motive was, but internet rumors say that Melly and Nate had beef over a dice game where Melly lost and pulled a gun rather than giving up his cash. Nate got the drop on him at the house party, and the rest is Chirac history. Although unknown to the rap world, 051 Melly was a Chicago street legend, and his death closed a chapter on a wild era in the city. It seems unlikely that Durk and the OTF camp would have had any involvement in setting Melly up, because Jarrell City and FEG have serious beef with him. But I'm sure Durk wasn't too broken up about the murder, even if it was orchestrated by some of his ops.